mentioned that psychology is about studying the brain and behavior and stuff like that. So can you elaborate a little bit on what the difference is between psychology and clinical psychology?
Right. Well, if you want to study clinical psychology, it's usually at a master's or a doctorate level. But the first step is usually the master's. You need to have a basic degree in psychology, right? So you can't bypass that. All the word clinical means really is that it's application. So psychology itself with lots of theory, right? Statistics, theory, lots and lots of studies and sampling of this and that, whatever. But the clinical psychology part is when you put all of that into practice, right? So you're then undergoing internships, training, you're actually working with people. So that is, in a way, the psychologist's next step up to working with people. For me, it was the counseling master's because I didn't have a background in psychology. If I'd had a first degree in psychology, then yeah, my next step up would have been the master's in clinical psychology. I wouldn't do the counseling one anymore, right? Because, why would I? I would do the next step up. So the word clinical simply means, in this case, that you're out there and you're working with people in clinics, if you like. So I have colleagues who are working in family service centers, in IMH, and they are clinical psychologists. And they've done their training and then their internships at usually government institutions.
So then what's the main difference between counseling and clinical psychology?
Well, like I said, if you want to go into counseling, you don't need to have the whole psychology background, right? But if you want to do the clinical psychology approach, then you need to have the psychology background. So some purists would say that the clinical psychologist is actually, in a way, better grounded, better trained, because they are purists from the start. They've done all the psychology, right? Doing the master's in counseling, when I did my course, we had a very wide range of students, and we did it. I did it with Monash here at Kaplan, and a lot of teachers who also wanted to do counseling at schools. And so, if you're a teacher and you want to do counseling, you want to work with children, say, there's no way you can go off and then say, I'm going to do a bachelor's in psychology, and then I'm going to do a master's in clinical psychology, and then I'm going to come back work with these kids, right? So you would do the 1 year minimum, or you would do either a diploma or a master's in psychology. Most of them do the master's, and then they're they're sent out back to schools to work in school counseling units, right? So that's really an upskilling or a sort of a change in direction for some of them. Many of my other classmates chose to do counseling because of some major life event. It's very interesting because I think a lot of people who choose to study psychology and even counseling, it's like we are on a search of sorts, for meaning. And we want to make meaning out of our own experiences. And I think help others do that as well. So I remember one of my lecturers from Monash in class, she said, "Oh, we all know why you're all here, because you're all trying to find the answers to your own problems." And we all looked at each other. We thought, do you have problems? Do you have problems? But yeah, we had a whole range of people in class. Someone had a brush with death and then decided, I don't want this high-powered financier job. I really actually want to help people who are suffering, because it seems so much more meaningful. So a lot of mid-career changes. I had quite a few classmates in their 40s, 50s, and we were all just looking for something more meaningful. At that stage, could I have signed up for a bachelor's in psychology? Sure, but it would have taken me a very long route to get to where I am now. I quite like my route now, where I got the master's in counseling, and then I'm, filling in the gaps that I feel need filling with a course that's really very, very rich. I think when you do a bachelor's in psychology, for starters, it can be very broad, right? It is a broad course, and different institutions will offer you a different sort of mix of of units. Some places do it with management, I think at SMU, management type offerings. Some are more purists, I think at NUS perhaps, you know. So there are different courses, and I just felt, you know, having so many degrees already, the masters in counseling suited me well at that point. Yeah. I would say, however, if you are on the cusp of, say, going off to uni, right, and you are looking for a course to do, and you are feeling drawn towards, you know, meaningful work that involves helping other people make sense of life, and, you know, then I would say, you know, you will probably start off with the bachelor's in psychology. You know, there isn't a bachelor's in counseling as far as I know. It's usually a master's level course. Yeah. And some people with the psychology bachelor's do the master's in counseling because I think they may not want the full-blown clinical psychology part of it. But, you know, I think it's good to leave those options open, because you can even move on after the clinical psychology master's to do a doctorate if you like. And you can teach, you know. So I know someone who does that. And I think that's fantastic, because then, you know, you're doing so much on so different levels, you know, helping plus teaching. I think that's wonderful.